Hey guys, Justin Bryant here from selfmadesuccess.com, and in this video I'm going to show you 15 startup business ideas for the future. These are businesses that not only can make you a lot of money now and have very little competition, but can be some of the biggest businesses. I'm talking billions of dollars of worth in the future, 2020 and beyond. These are in all different types of industries, and if you can get into them, if you are interested in them, you could be solving some of the world's biggest problems, and you would have very little competition if you could just get started and get your foot in the door as quickly as possible. So some of these great ideas I'm going to mention in this video. Number one, 3D printing shops. 3D printing shops, of course, are going to be more and more in demand because people need 3D printing for all kinds of things, and it's very convenient and can be much cheaper and more efficient to create prosthetic limbs, car parts, and all kinds of different things like that. So 3dhubs.com is a example of a company that does 3D printing projects, custom orders and things like that. They've gotten a ton of orders, and they're only going to get more and more in the future. There's very little competition, and if you can get your hands on a 3D printer that can handle a lot, then you could make a great business out of that. Number two is car charging stations. Car charging stations are great because obviously emissions from gasoline and things like that are concerning scientists with global warming and climate change. So more and more electric cars are being created. Things like solar panels and wind energy are being more popular. ChargePoint.com is a place where you can go to learn more about charging stations. They are a company that builds them, and of course, as you probably realize, there's not a lot of charging stations around right now, especially if you compare them to how many millions of gas stations we have. And if you can come up with a way to make charging stations, get them in places that could be convenient for drivers, or make them even mobile for people who can use them on the go, that can be a huge business to start. Number three is DNA design firms. DNA design firms, of course, help with identifying things in your DNA. They can look at you, and one of the biggest applications for it is diseases. They can find out your genes and things like that, and whether you are prone for certain diseases so that they can tackle that before it happens. And if you can get into that, that is a huge industry that is going to be growing more and more. Very few companies are doing this right now. You won't find a lot of big public companies doing DNA design. So, Genomics is one of the companies that does it, but there's not a lot of others. So if you can get into that, help prevent diseases, you could definitely change the world. Number four is holographic theaters. So holographic theaters is the next form of entertainment that could really take over. 3D holograms, instead of using screens where you actually feel like you're there, like you're in the same room as the movie and the scenes that are happening in front of you, is the next form of big entertainment. It can change the theater industry completely. We all know how well theaters do as far as making money and getting turnouts for big movies and things like that. So, Rich Tech is one example. You can go to richtechsystem.com, but 3D hologram theaters, those are the future of entertainment. And if you can do some type of home version where you install them in homes, or if you can do a big theater, there are all kinds of ways you can make big money from this. Number five, jetpack dealerships. So this might sound a little far-fetched, but they aren't actually, because some people are actually getting into this. Jetpacks are definitely something that a lot of people have never even tried before, but they're going to be more and more in demand as a form of entertainment, as a form of maybe even transportation. And if you want to get into this, you can study, say, xjetpacks.com, and they will show you some places that actually sell these jetpacks and experiences for them. Of course, these are very expensive. They attract high-end customers, So you wouldn't even need that many customers to make a lot of money with this type of stuff. Number 6 is lunar tour guides, and what I mean by this, of course, is basically tours on the moon to start out. Of course, it could expand to other planets in the future, but spaceadventures.com is one place you can go to learn more about a company that's getting into space tours and things like that, where you can actually go up in space as a tourist and just get to see everything there from your own perspective without having to be an astronaut or something. And of course, this is going to attract a lot of very high-end clients. Millionaires and billionaires will be probably most of your customers, especially starting out. So you can make a lot of money from this, and it's going to be in demand, and there's very little competition. Number 7 is meat growing. Meat growing is interesting because we're going to have a food shortage if the population of the world keeps growing. Animals are getting slaughtered. People are, especially these animal rights companies and foundations, are trying to preserve animals and find alternatives. Obviously, a lot of people don't care for things like tofu and going vegetarian, so what they're doing is creating food and meat artificially through very advanced sciences. So biotech, things like that, they're finding ways to create actual meat and things like that in labs, and you probably couldn't even tell the difference. So instead of having to give animals all these steroids and mass slaughter them and things like that to get the meat just to give enough food for the people of the world, then they could actually create food without having to harm animals and things like that, and actually fill the need of hunger, where many countries still have a lot of people who don't get enough food daily. So this could solve a huge problem in many different ways if you could find a way to get into growing beef and other meat. You can check out this story on Newsweek.com called "Lab Grown Beef Will Save the Planet," and maybe that'll help you get inspired to take action. Number 8, robotics. Of course, robotics, we all know, is going to be a big part of the future. There's all kinds of robotic startups. You can go to angel.co to see all the angel investing opportunities, and say Skyfront, for instance, trying to come up with the next level drones. There's other companies as well you can look at, but all these robotics companies, they're pretty small for the most part. You won't find a lot of just major public companies doing robotics yet. I mean, they're working on things, but they're not really there yet. We're not going to have robotic assistants in our houses like they do in the movies yet for a long time. But if you could get into this, or if even you could get into robotic repair or robotic design, or just sell something that could some ideas that could be used by some of these startups, you can make ridiculous amounts of money and really change the world for the better. Number 9 is space hotels. So of course space is going to be a huge part of future startups, but there's not a whole lot of competition with space hotels yet because of the lack of space travel we have right now, especially for consumers who aren't really able to travel to space much right now. But you have companies like Bigelow Aerospace who are working on the first space hotels, or basically consumer space stations where you can go stay for a few days in a space station and actually get to experience what it's like to live in space for a little while. And of course people are going to pay amazing amounts of money. They can occupy about 6 people with this one in particular. You can go to bigelowaerospace.com and check these out. But of course this is the only company I even know of that's actually doing this, and there's not a lot of competition, of course, just like most of these other options. So if you can come up with ways for people to take tourism to space can you imagine the impact that would have and the customers you could attract? Number 10 is Nanomedics. So Nanomedics is basically a way of combating diseases, viruses, and things like that, cancers, by using tiny little robots. You might have seen them in some movies where they can use these tiny little robots and they go into your bloodstream and can attack and destroy cancer and other forms of terrible diseases and things like that, and just help us be healthier overall. Of course, this isn't a mainstream thing yet. They're not really practical yet. They haven't perfected the technology, but if you could get into this, you could be saving millions of lives per year from common diseases like cancer and things like that they really just don't have cures for. And of course, if you want to read more about the advantages of this, there's a whole place called nanoday.com. They have a great article called "What are the possible advantages of nanorobots in medicine?" and this can help you really get inspired and show you what the potential is for curing diseases using these nanobots, and maybe inspire you to get started with some technology that could really change the world. Number 11 is electric vehicles. Of course, electric vehicles are a big part of the future and the elimination of gasoline burning and emissions that are causing climate change and things like that. Tesla, of course, is one of the biggest electric car companies right now. They're even working on things like solar roofs, self-driving cars and things like that. So they're really going with the future. You can really get inspired by learning more about Tesla by going to tesla.com, or learning about their owner, Elon Musk, seeing some of the things he's talking about and how he thinks about electric cars and the impact that could have. But electric cars are the future. They're going to be more and more in demand, and countries are really becoming more supportive of things like this. So if you could come up with something that really rivals Tesla, which there isn't a whole lot of competition for them right now in the electric car industry, you could really come up with something that could make a huge impact and get more people to create or get electric cars and make them more mainstream to really help reverse climate change and make the world a better place. Number 12, wind energy installation is another great startup opportunity that you could do. Wind energy, of course, along with solar energy, waves in the ocean. There's all kinds of different forms of clean energy we could take better advantage of. But the windenergyfoundation.org, that's a place I would recommend you go if you want to learn more about common questions about wind energy, the benefits, campaigns, how to get it installed. There are some companies that do install it, while it's not a mainstream thing yet. If you could find a way to get into this and make it a mainstream thing, make wind energy more efficient and cheaper to install, people would be more inclined to get it at their homes, and we could make emissions go way down and our dependence on energy companies go way down. So wind energy, go to windenergyfoundation.org. They're doing some great stuff here. They will answer a lot of your questions about getting started in wind energy. Number 13, asteroid mining. Of course, asteroids are something we don't exactly mine right now, but it's part of the future. There are people talking about doing this and getting into it. The reason being is they have minerals and different types of things like that within them that we don't have on Earth, that we could use for different forms of energy or for whole new types of technology. And you could use these things for who knows what. We could build the next evolution of space stations, or the next wave of energy, the next forms of space travel and things like that, using some of the minerals we find from asteroid mining. And planetaryresources.com is a place to go to for learning more about asteroid mining and kind of seeing a company that's actually getting in the trenches and trying to get some work done with this. You might want to work with them, you might want to create your own startup to compete or to work with them, but asteroid mining is going to be how we get some of the most amazing non-earthly resources in the future. Number 14, you could do nanosatellites. So if you could get into nanosatellites, trust me, you won't have hardly any competition, but the upside is incredible because nanosatellites could give us all the ability to take advantage of space without the cost or the connections and things like that that the big companies have. So there aren't a whole lot of satellites in the orbit right now, you would think, but nanosatellites are much cheaper, they're smaller, they're easier to launch, saving money, saving fuel, and things like that. So if you can get into nanosatellites, these are really the future for giving people access to space. And you can read more about this at Forbes.com. They have a great article here. Nanosatellites will give everyone access to space by Techonomy. It'll give you an idea of where they are right now, where the future is for them, what the uses are for nanosatellites, and how we can give consumers all kinds of experiences and technology and opportunities by creating better forms of nanosatellites. And last but not least is employee monitoring. Now this might be a little less of a moonshot compared to some of these other ones I talked about that seem very futuristic, but believe it or not, more and more people are working from home, more and more companies are allowing people to work from their laptops and not come into the workplace every single time. They can save money on lease space, they can save money from facilities and all kinds of different things like that. So they're allowing people to work from home more because they can get the same amount of work done by having a computer at home. The thing is, a lot of employees will have very little tolerance of the distractions around them and will end up giving in and not getting the right amount of work done working from home. So they're going to need surveillance of employees, and you can build a company based on that. There's different software and stuff, but really you could use a team to make sure that employees are doing their jobs. You could help companies. These big companies that would actually need this would pay a lot of money just to make sure that their employees are getting everything done that needs to get done. So you could get into electronic surveillance of employees. So if you got something from this video, if you feel like you learned about some really cool startups and some opportunities of the future, please like and subscribe so I can create more videos like this for you and give you more ideas that you could learn from and maybe take advantage of. If you want to let me know about some other cool futuristic startup ideas that you heard about, or companies that are doing some great things, or just let me know what you thought about the video, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to get more in-depth blog posts on business ideas and cool startups of the future, and get more tools and courses and things like that, you can go to selfmadesuccess.com. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you have a great day.